Good morning. Welcome to another edition of the Sunday Recap. I am this week's host, Derek Ward. Scott and his family have come down with the bug. It seems to be going around pretty rampant. I'm teaching school, and so we have a lot of absences due to that stuff, and it's just going around. So continue to keep them and everybody else that's been sick this week in your prayers. We are coming up on Christmas, so we are going through the book of Matthew and talking about John. And before we get into that, I would like to go through and read this week's scriptures. Our first scripture comes from Isaiah chapter 35, verse 1 through 10. The wilderness and the dry land shall be glad. The desert shall rejoice and blossom like the crocus. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given to it, the majesty of Carmel and Sharon. They shall see the glory of the Lord and the majesty of our God. Strengthen the weak hands and make them firm, and strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who are of fearful heart, be strong, do not fear. Here is your God. He will come with vengeance, with terrible recompense. He shall come and save you. Then the eyes of the blind shall be opened, and the ears of the deaf unstopped. Then the lame shall leap like a deer, and the tongue of the speechless sing for joy. For waters shall break forth in the wilderness, and streams in the desert. The burning sand shall become a pool, and the thirsty ground springs of water. The haunt of jackals shall become a swamp. The grass shall become reeds and rushes. A highway shall be there, and it shall be called the Holy Way. The unclean shall not travel on it, but it shall be for God's people. No traveler, not even fools, shall go astray. No lion shall be there, nor shall any ravenous beast come upon it. They shall not be found there, but the redeemed shall walk there. And the ransomed of the Lord shall return, and come to Zion with singing. Everlasting joy shall be upon their heads. And they shall obtain joy and gladness, and sorrow and singing shall flee away. That leads us to our New Testament reading. Matthew chapter 11, verses 2 through 11. When John heard in prison what the Messiah was doing, he sent word by his disciples and said to him, Are you the one is to come, or are we to wait for another? Jesus answered them, Go and tell John what you hear and see. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, and the poor have good news brought to them. And blessed is anyone who takes no offense at me. As they went away, Jesus began to speak to the crowds about John. What did you go out to the wilderness to look at? A reed shaken by the wind? What then did you go out to see? Someone dressed in soft robes? Look, those who wear soft robes in royal palaces. Then did you go out to see a prophet? Yes, I tell you, and more than a prophet. This is the one about whom it is written, See, I am sending my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. Truly I tell you, among those born of women, no one has arisen greater than John the Baptist. Yet the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. And so Pastor Ron kind of explained a little bit more about that. And the question he asked, the title of the sermon, first of all, is, Are we there yet? And it encompasses joy. And one of the things he asked, or he said, was John asked Jesus from jail, Are you the Messiah, or will we wait for another? It's kind of questioning, are you the one who was prophesied, or are we going to wait for another guy? Because I don't see things happening that I kind of have doubts. And so Pastor Ron went on to say, have you ever asked, is Jesus the real deal? Have you ever had any doubt? If so, you might have thought, why are people rejected? If Jesus is real, if he's spreading this love, why do we still reject people when we're told to accept people? Are we like John? If the person sent to lead the way has questions about it, do we feel so bad for doubting? And he likened this to kind of like being in school. And I see it all the time. You have kids that really struggle with things, and they want to ask questions, but they can't. They're too afraid. Might get made fun of for being that, dumb kid or whatever it might be. But then all of a sudden, the smart kid comes along and asks the exact same question that they have. So they don't feel so bad for not knowing what they were trying to ask. And so he asks us, are we kind of like that? Are we asking questions but too afraid to really ask them? And he kind of went on to say, when we are down, we get discouraged. And that seems kind of true. If you're in prison, if you experience a death in the family, you do kind of get discouraged. One of the ways that I was personally discouraged was through death. About 5 years ago, I lost my father. And a couple years ago, I lost my brother to cancer. My father was unexpected, and my brother, for an extent, was unexpected too. It was, he had pancreatic cancer. And after they died, I really questioned, is there a real God out there? Is Jesus there? Does he care? It was hard for me to see past that. I kept questioning myself. What is God doing? He took two wonderful people from this world, and it really left a huge hole in my heart. And it wasn't until, a long time later, about a year or so later, that, my going through the motions of trying to believe actually came back to believing. I watched people who were very spiritual go through some same struggles, and they struggled too, so I didn't feel so bad for doubting. And so I saw them go through it. I forgot who wrote this song, but there's a song that talks about, this is all that I can give. And as the song progresses, it talks about, starts off, very angry, very, very sad, like, I can't give anything. I have nothing to give. And then as it goes on, the final verse in there talks about how I didn't notice that you were standing there. I didn't notice that was you holding me. I didn't notice that was you crying as well. So that was kind of, what kind of brought me back into Christ. Then we go on, and it says that, after John had questioned Jesus, Jesus replies that the lame walk, the dead rise, and all these other great things are happening. And, don't get discouraged. Everything that has been promised in the scripture is being fulfilled. And he goes on to tell others about John that, he fully trusts him. This was the guy that prophesied of things to come. And so he was the one leading the way, and don't be discouraged with him. And then we started talking about joy. And we said that during this season, this Advent season that we're in, we're lighting a pink candle to represent joy. And the pink candle emphasizes the joy of what is to come. We are waiting for another. But that wait is not without some struggle. Pastor Ron also said, Christianity is not about being happy, but about true joy. Jesus is at work, but not in the ways that are known to us. So he's always working. It might not be what we want. It might not fits with our season or our time, but he's always there, and he's always going to be there. And we're waiting for that time where he comes and we all will rejoice. And that is a wonderful thing. If you are down, if you're discouraged, if it might be a hard time, and God is going to get you through that. One of my favorite scriptures comes from actually a comic comedian. You might have heard of him, Mark Lowry, and he sang with the Gaither vocal trio. And he said, I came to give life more abundantly. And he doesn't specify just joy more abundantly, life more abundantly. Life is a series of ups and downs and forwards and backwards, and he is going to give us that life more abundantly. And we're just waiting for that time to come where we can join him in heaven and find that real pure joy that we love. And then finally, he capped it off with, the road is long, but joy is coming. We have a long road ahead of us, but joy is coming. And that basically summed up what today's sermon was about. We might have doubts. We might have fears. We have reasons that can shake our faith, but don't give up. The joy is coming. Now, we do have some things coming up with our church, and I do want to highlight some of those things. One of those is that we do have youth every Wednesday night at 6:30. It starts in the dining hall. You enter in by the parlor at the back of the church, back corner. Look for the awning on the side of the church and just go around the corner, and that's where you'll come in. And you'll just go through you'll see the fellowship hall and just go straight through there. You'll find us. You'll hear the people talking in there. It's a wonderful night. If you have youth, please send them our way. We'll be glad to have them. It's a great spiritual time, great fellowship for the kids, and they're worth it. Currently, it's the 15th. So later this week, we are going to have on the 19th at 12 p.m. an Advent service, and at 6:30 p.m. A growing room program. And then the 21st, we have the cookie candy walk, and that is always fun. It starts at 8:30, so make sure you come by and see us. And on the 22nd, we have the Christmas service, and we are going to also be having our cantata from our traditional service, and we'll also have special music in our other services to mark the occasion if you go to those. At 6:30 p.m., the United Methodist Men Dinner and Meeting is on the 23rd at 6:30. Christmas Eve services, those are always great. We love them. We have one at 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and at 11:30 p.m., and they're usually a candlelight service going on with that. We do have a couple other things going on. Our Christmas quilt and cookie walk. Here's a little bit more information about that. Christmas quilts, cookies, candy, gourmet cinnamon rolls, and hot drinks. Those donating cookies and candy are asked to please bring them on Friday afternoon to the kitchen by 5 p.m. and bring them to the kitchen on Saturday morning, or bring them to the kitchen on Saturday morning at 8 p.m. December 22nd, Have You Heard? A Christmas Cantata will be performed during the 10:30 a.m. worship service. The Chancel Choir, under the direction of Drew Hartenberger, presents their annual Christmas Cantata. 8 o'clock and 9 a.m. services will be filled with special music, and you'll hear Pastor Ron's Christmas sermon. Once again, we have the Christmas Eve stuff. One quick announcement, and we've tried to announce this every week. Starting at January 5th, Sunday, January 5th, the 9 o'clock service will start 15 minutes later, so it'll start at 9:15. That's kind of to give some time for Pastor Ron to get in between everything without having to rush, and he can still greet everybody. And it's always good to meet people that you're preaching to. That's kind of one of the important things that we do. Other than that, we have Mom's Cafe on Thursday. Come in and have a great meal. It's always a great time. We always want you to come in and feel at home here. As you can see, these past couple times we've done our Sunday recap in the sanctuary, so you can see our beautiful church, not just books on the back wall of our library. We do have a beautiful church. We have lots of youth growing, and if you could come in and just see what we're doing, I think you'll be pleased. Everybody has a home here, no matter who you are, what you've been through, where you are in your walk of life. We love you. And as always, we always have services at 8 o'clock a.m. That's our gospel service led by Alan Berry. We have our 9 o'clock service till the end of the year, and then it goes to 9:15, and that's led by Sam Fergoza. And then the 10:30 service is our traditional service, and that's led by Drew Hartenberger. As always, we want you to grow in faith, love God, and serve others. And if you need anything at all, if you need a prayer, someone to talk to, please give us a call. If you look at the bottom, we do have the messenger link turned on. So if you need to send us a message, send us a message. We, as on the Sunday Recap team, always have our names highlighted, as well as Pastor Ron's kind of tagged into the post as well. So if you need to contact any of us, if you have any questions, feel free to do that. We'd be glad to help you out any way we can. I want to leave you with a quote that we were left with at the end of our service, which I've already mentioned, but is a very powerful service. The road is long, but joy is coming. As always, thank you for being with us. Tune in next time.